time for Screen Junkies Movie Fights.
What in the world? Welcome to Movie Fights Live. This is Movie Fights. We are live today. And I also want to ask, where are my owls at? Hoot hoot. Hello, Owl Nation. We've got an awesome fight. Happy Valentine's Day. We're going to delve into the wonderful, beautiful, lovely world of rom-coms. And, there's just so much love in the air. Let's meet this panel that is just overflowing with effervescent love and hearts and adorable emojis. First up, I'd like to welcome him back. Hector, we haven't seen you in a while. You know, from DC Daily, Hyper RPG, and all over the internet. Hector Navarro.
Thank you so much for having me. Owl Nation. What is that?
Oh, it's just a thing. It's just a silly thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
it's not bad. It's not offensive. I can say it.
Oh yeah, you can say it.
Okay, cool. Owl Nation. Who?
Yeah, I like to refer to like a large, like a good portion of our Movie Fights fans as Owl Nation.
Oh, for
and
sure.
Yeah, Lon and I were just both wearing owl-related apparel one day, and we were like, oh yeah, let's make that a thing. And we haven't stopped saying. At least I haven't. Great to have you, Hector.
Thanks, man.
I'd like to welcome back. She's become a good friend of the show, and you know her from all over the World Wide Web. TRISHA Hershberger. What's going on?
All over the web. I'm good, Hal. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's to you Parks and Rec fans. Happy Galentine's yesterday.
Yep.
And you got some pretty cool earrings for Valentine's Day. Those
I
are.
did.
I don't know if you could see them, but they are playbills for
playbills.
rent.
How much did those cost you?
Well, my husband got them for me for Valentine's Day, so I don't
They were
know
probably
how much they cost.
$525,600.
Dollars.
Nicely done.
100%.
Yeah.
And
Well done,
last but not least, we have a special guest in the house. You know her as the voice of Korra on Legends of Korra. Welcome, Janet Varney.
Thanks. Happy Valentine's
Oh,
Day. Is that somewhat heart-shaped?
Yeah, you created a finger emoji. Janet, you're part of a new series called Voyage to the Stars
Yes.
that we're pretty excited to hear about. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it is a partially scripted, partially improvised podcast, which is not something that I personally have ever heard of before. For me, this is a new format, both as a fan and as a participant. And we are a misfit group that is traveling the galaxy through a wormhole. I play a sarcastic AI who may or may not be interested in murdering the humans that are on board.
Can I hear your AI voice?
I sort of based it on the weird, informal, yet formal, kind of mean and cold. I think you said, "Can I hear what the voice sounds?" Is that right? I'm sorry. I'm just not understanding you. Please call again. Bye.
Wow, I don't know if that's logic or snark. Wow,
Exactly.
that's pretty good.
That's exactly
pretty good.
what don't you feel that way with customer service AI
Yes.
or robot? Like, it's not AI, but you know,
100%.
they want you to believe
Yeah,
they're
so it's
AI.
like if Data was a jerk.
Oh, Data. Hard.
Well, that sounds super awesome, and that sounds like just a fun scenario to kind of send up
Oh, yeah, and
explore.
the rest of the cast, amazing. Felicia Day, please.
Yes.
Colton Dunn and Steve Berg, just amazing and
Oh, yeah,
wonderful
I know
people.
Colton
A
from the
blast.
Upright Citizens Brigade,
Yeah,
and of course he's on
absolutely.
Superstore.
Yes,
yeah.
indeed, yeah. So check that out.
Awesome. Janet, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
and,
you.
Deciding these movie fights are going to be myself and the Dans. Let's take a look at the Dan cam. What up? Dan Murrow on the facts. Dan, thank you for being in this seat. I couldn't be here last week, but you, how was that? It was awesome.
It was a good time. Like I said, it's my first time judging new formula movie fights.
Yeah.
So it was fun. Thank you for letting me fill in for you.
Oh, of course, anytime. That was super great. Oh, and speaking of logic, you got some Spock on your shirt right there.
Spock.
Huh?
Yep. This is from Mara.
That's right.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, a little
Vulcan
Spock,
massage,
Vulcan
death grip.
massage, yes.
Nice. And she is, I think she's social media's best friend, everybody's best friend, Danielle Radford. Danielle, you want to break down what's going on with you over there?
Yes, so the way this works is that in the case of a tie, we have a tiebreaker poll. And there are lots of great polls that are on Twitter, but the only one that counts for our purposes is the one that is on YouTube. If you have any questions about how that works, head to in the description below. Ask one of us in the chat. We will be sure to help you out. With the poll, stuff does not start going up until everyone has given their initial arguments. We want this to be about the debates. Additionally, come hang out with us over on Movie Fights Live, because I'll be checking for any kind of interesting contacts, fun dank memes, all of those things. And if I like your comment, I might give you a shout out during the show.
Ooh, I want a shout out from Danielle. Make some comments, you guys. So again, how it works, the first person to 4 points will walk out of here the victor. After the first 3 rounds, then we'll go to the speed round, and the top 2 players will move on to the speed round. And then it's anybody's ball game, because someone can be down 3-0, but make a furious comeback and take it 4-3. Who knows? Anything can happen. You guys ready for the fun?
Let's do it.
I hope so.
Yeah, JTE, drop that package.
Prepare to die. Ladies and gentlemen.
It's main event time.
Yeah, pretty on brand for the show.
All of them.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Super leg.
Rocky 4. There it is.
Yes, thank you,
Wow.
Thor. Yes,
Great.
as Hector noted as we were sitting here watching it, that is all the times they fight in movies.
Yeah.
And those are all the fights. We compiled
Every
all
single
of the
one.
fights.
Yeah.
All right, question number 1. As we established, love is in the air. It is Valentine's Day. In honor of Valentine's Day, what is the worst romantic drama or rom-com of all time? Ooh, boy. What is the biggest stinkeroo in the rom-com department? And we're going to start with player number 1 for question number 1, Hector.
Okay, I'm gonna come out of the gate strong. I'm picking 16 Candles because it is racist and sexist and homophobic, and it's harmful and sinister. It celebrates date rape. The 2 main male characters talk about violating a girl who's passed out from being drunk, as if there's nothing wrong with that. The geek, Anthony Michael Hall, also cannot take a hint with Sam, and he's made to be a nice guy. Here's a hint: he is not. Every time Long Duck Dong is on screen, it's accompanied with a gong. He crashes the car just because he's Asian. This led to an entire generation of Asian Americans bullying in the back half of the 80s and into the 90s. They would get called, "Oh, sexy girlfriend," constantly yelled at them. Japanese actor Gere Watanabe talked about being naive when he made the film. He thought he was just making people laugh, and it is a movie that so many people have gone back and actually revisited and reflected on, and it's awful. Sam and her female friend, also there's a sentence where her female friend Randy, they're apparently appalled at the idea of dating a black guy. One of the jocks says Sam might be, quote, retarded because she's looking at Jake in class. Molly Ringwald ultimately comes around to believe that it's okay to continue to appreciate films that didn't seem so irresponsible upon first viewing, but that they should be re-evaluated. She said she was embarrassed that it took her that long to fully comprehend the scene late in 16 Candles when the dreamboat Jake essentially trades his drunk girlfriend Caroline, and she's like passed out drunk in the car, to the geek to satisfy the latter's sexual urges in return for Samantha's underwear. The geek takes Polaroids with Caroline to have proof of his conquest. When she wakes up in the morning and she doesn't know what's happening, he asks if she enjoyed it, and neither of them remember much, and she says, "You know, I have this weird feeling I did." Molly Ringwald said she had to have a feeling about it rather than a thought, because thoughts are things that we have when we're conscious, and she wasn't. When she reflects on John Hughes' career, she says his earlier writing could also be considered racist, misogynistic, and at times homophobic. The words fag and faggot are tossed around with abandon. The character of Long Duck Dong in 16 Candles is a grotesque stereotype. There's barely a person of color to be found in the films, and no characters are openly gay. Ringwald was revaluing these movies 30 years after she did them because her own daughter was roughly around the same age that she was when John Hughes made her his screen muse. And there was a moment, too, where Molly Ringwald's mom had to step in and be like, you need to change this line, because at one point they were going to have in the film that Molly Ringwald's dad was just going to notice that her underwear was missing, and Molly's mom had to be like, why would her dad know that? So they changed the line instead to have the father say, you know, remember, you wear the pants in the relationship, as opposed to some other weird, creepy comment, and John Hughes had to be like, well, I didn't mean it like that. So the mom had to step in and do that. The problem is that this movie is considered a classic. It is streaming on Netflix currently. It led to John Hughes' really successful career. So my issue is that because people love it so much and it is considered what it is, so highly regarded, it is hugely problematic. It is disgusting. It idolizes the wrong way to treat women, the wrong way for women to think about themselves and sexuality, and it's such a bummer because it is one of the few movies, especially of that generation, starring a young woman, and it's completely tainted, and we should throw it away and cancel it and all that other good stuff. It's the worst.
Well, my childhood's been ruined. Hector, definitely problematic. Is it the worst rom-com of all time? We will suss that out. Trisha Hershberger.
Okay, I mean, can I give a standing O to Hector for that awesome opening argument? That was great.
Yeah.
And while that was great, and I believe everything that Hector said, I do not think 16 Candles is the worst rom-com of all time, because I'm going to compare it to The Hottie and the Naughty.
Oh.
And this is not naughty like, oh, you've been so naughty. This is the word hottie replaced with an N. This is a Paris Hilton rom-com where the whole plot of this film is that Paris helps her unattractive best friend. Paris is the hot one, her friend is the naughty. She helps her unattractive best friend find love by refusing the same man over and over and over and over herself until he's like, oh, you know what, your friend is kind of attractive. That's the whole point of this movie. It is offensive. The plot is absolutely atrocious. And not that reviews are anything by any means, but if we're going to talk about the worst movies of all times, I feel like it's appropriate to bring up the popular consensus. This film has a 1.9 out of 10 on IMDb, a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's pretty high up there on Metacritic's all-time lowest scoring films. I believe it's number 13. So it's right up there with Baby Geniuses and Biodome as far as amazing films, just to let you know the company that we're in here. It's won awards for being so bad. Paris Hilton won the Razzie for the Golden Razzie Award for Worst Actress in a Film. They won Razzies for 2 of them for Worst On-Screen Couple, for both her and her best friend and the love interest couple. And they were nominated for Worst Screenplay, Worst Picture, and Worst Director. So overall, I'm pretty sure everyone is in agreement that The Hottie and the Naughty is absolutely worse. And just to leave you with this, this was what one critic said about The Hottie and the Naughty. Imagine the worst movie you've ever seen. Got it? Now try to think of something worse. That something is this movie. Wretched, embarrassing, and a waste of the time and energy of everyone involved. The Hottie and the Naughty.
All right. Trisha is not a fan of The Hottie and the Naughty. Janet.
Well, first of all, let me get my notes together. Clearly, I've done the show before and know that you need to have an entire litany of reasons that something is the best or the worst of something.
It takes all...
I'm glad I have something with a collar so
many
I can
different
actually
routes.
do this.
Many different routes to an argument.
Okay. First of all, I'm just addressing what I picked. Yeah, I'm not diving
give us an
into
opening
anything about
statement.
these
Tell us,
things.
tell us what yours is, and then we'll open it up to everybody.
Okay, what I will say is, what could be wrong with taking a television show, a reality television competition show in its very first year, and it was a tremendous success, so why would it be a bad idea to take the winner and runner-up of the Who is a Talented Singer contest on a reality show and turn that into a romantic comedy movie between the two of them, because I'm sure that they can act, and I'm sure that they have chemistry, and I'm sure that it won't be hastily thrown together and just sort of scrambled where you kind of take a little piece of Grease and a little piece of like Cocktail and a little piece of 16 Candles and a little piece of The Hottie and the Naughty. It's possible that came out afterwards. But you sort of take a little potpourri of all of the worst things about every other worst movie. So it managed to succeed in throwing all of that stuff into one clumsy stew of a movie, and that movie is called From Justin to Kelly and is just an abomination.
Wow.
Therefore the worst.
I mean, judging by the picture we saw, the fashion was already an abomination, if it gets
Not
worse
good.
than that. Okay, let's open it up. You can fight it out, everybody.
Go ahead,
Hector.
Both of those are very bad movies. They're bad movies, to be sure,
Yeah.
for sure. But my main argument against both of these movies is that nobody really has seen them, and I'm not worried about a bunch of people continuing to see them. For example, I'll give you an example. They're not super readily available to find. I don't think From Justin to Kelly or The Hottie and the
False.
Naughty are on Netflix streaming anywhere.
Amazon Video, Google
It's
Video.
really, that's on there?
Very available.
But I think that the main takeaway here is that both of those movies, you know what you're getting into. into. Like you were setting up, Janet, beautifully. It was a cash-in for sure. And I think From Justin to Kelly was originally meant to be like a direct-to-video release. And in fact, they had planned to release it on DVD 6 weeks after it was in theater. So a bunch of theater chains got mad and they're like, well, we're not going to screen it then. It should be at least 3 months. And then they're like, okay, and then went back on it. The movie comes out, bombs. They still put it out 6 weeks after to put it immediately on DVD to cash in on that American Idol fervor. Kelly Clarkson knew that it was going to be bad, but she signed a contract. It's all contractually obligated. When you get to the Hottie and the Naughty, one of the producing partners was Paris Hilton Entertainment. Again, you know what you're getting into. These are bad movies, but From Justin to Kelly, they're harmless. From Justin to Kelly made $4.9 million. The Hottie and the Naughty made $1.5 million worldwide. And each of those, at least they kind of know their audience. From Justin to Kelly was nominated for 2 Teen Choice Awards for Breakout Stars and Choice Chemistry. Now, we might disagree with that, but their demographic is the Teen Choice Awards, and they were like, yeah, sure, we'll eat that up. The Hottie and the Naughty, one critic, John Anderson of Newsday, said, while he was panning it, he was also saying, he concluded, look, it's no worse in many ways than a lot of teen-centric comedies, which generally appeal to their audience through cruelty and vulgarity. And I will point to one of those teen comedies being 16 Candles. Again, my main argument is that it's considered a classic and people will continue to share it with their kids, hopefully followed up with a conversation like Molly Ringwald, the own star, did. So again...
But at least potentially it could spawn a conversation.
I hope so.
I agree.
I hope so.
Hector,
I
if
hope
the
so.
question was what's the biggest letdown romantic film of all time or the biggest disappointment, then I would say that your sole argument that you have here holds weight. But it's not. It's what's the worst, inherently the worst romantic comedy or drama of all time. So when we're talking about something that's a horrible movie, I don't think you can say something that has Molly Ringwald's amazing performance in it, has John Hughes' writing and directing in it. Like, these are talented people that make beautiful things. And as you even mentioned, a lot of critics still hold 16 Candles to be this momentous moment in filmmaking. So when we're talking about the worst film, to me, that's something with no redeemable qualities whatsoever, which has to be The Hottie and the Naughty.
And I agree,
everything about it is absolutely awful. And from Justin to Kelly, I agree with you. Super bad film.
Yeah.
Really, really bad. Not as bad as The Hottie and the Naughty. And just to drop some more numbers on that, Hottie and the Naughty is number 13 on Metacritic's worst ever movies list. From Justin to Kelly is number 68. So way better ranked than The Hottie and the Naughty. And I would say from Justin and Kelly, as someone who was an American Idol Season 1 fan, it's enjoyably bad if you like Justin and Kelly.
That's
So
what
if
the
you're
official
coming
Razzies
off-
said. The official Razzie movie guide lists From Justin to Kelly as one of the 100 most enjoyably bad movies ever made.
Yeah,
and
if-
I can appreciate that sometimes.
If you like those two people
Sure.
and you like hearing them singing, you're going to get more of them singing and you're going to get those two people, which is something redeemable about the film. I'm going on that there's got to be nothing redeemable if it's
That's
the
not
worst
true.
ever.
Christine Lakin from Step by Step is in the movie. She plays the naughty. She was also Al Lambert on Step by Step, and
there's
she's
so
fantastic.
many. She's great, and she
Not
pops
in
up-
that movie.
She pops up a lot of other places, and that's where you
Yeah.
can find her. So if this film never existed or ceased to exist, no one would be sad, because if Christine Lakin is the number one thing about it, you can find her at many wonderful other places. I'm going to quickly say, and I don't disagree with anything you said. I'm on the fence. I thought about The Hottie and the Naughty. I'll be very honest with you. If that pushes you into the winner's circle, I understand. To be honest with you guys, and listen, I don't know, but like, I actually didn't go with what a lot of other people said. Okay, I didn't go with a lot of facts and figures and a lot of statistics about what was the worst movie. I felt that my choice was from the heart. Okay, they came from the inside of me and my brain and heart, and I know that it was very poorly reviewed, but I didn't come with information from other people, from outside sources. For me, this is my worst personal movie, and you can't vote me out of that. If I feel that it's the worst, and that's my personal truth, then that's my personal truth.
I believe that Hector's personal truth is that he believes that 16
Let's
Candles is
shift
worse.
gears. We're going to go around and get any final thoughts, final statements. Hector, please lay it on us.
I've only seen pieces of 16 Candles here and there up to last night, where when I sent in 16 Candles as the worst pick because I knew of some of the sinister things that were in the film, I rewatched it and watched it all the way through last night for essentially the first time, and it broke my heart. And there were things in there that were so unbelievably racist and sexist and harmful, especially the way that the dudes talk about a girl who's passed out. These things that I was seeing as this was a huge issue that the United States and masculinity have not dealt with, and the movie doesn't even try to deal with any of that stuff. And they make the hunk out to be this hunky guy when he's just like the worst type of stuff. So my heart was broken. I was sick to my stomach at certain lines, at certain little throwaway comments. It was a really, really disappointing, but I think ultimately the most harmful and bad and worst movie, as opposed to the other two, which are bad movies a la The Room, where you can get together with your friends and have a good time and drink and make fun of them. But ultimately, you're not going to walk away and go, man, From Justin to Kelly was super racist, wasn't it? Yeah, it definitely was. The Hottie and the Naughty talked about women in an awful way. Yeah, no, that happens with my movie, so that's why I think it's the worst.
Thank you, Hector. Trisha.
Talking about women in an awful way is exactly what the Hottie and the Naughty is about. I mean, she's given this grotesque acne, and she's so unattractive, no one will even look at her. How could someone possibly love her? Which is the worst, most harmful thing you can tell women. My argument is that the question is the worst romantic drama or rom-com of all time. And for something to be the worst of all time, I think that means you cannot find one redeemable thing in it. If it's the worst, it means it's the worst in every category. In directing, in writing, in acting, in cinematography, in makeup, in wardrobe, in all these things that we appreciate about great cinema and give awards for at the end of the year. This is awful in every single one of them. And it's not even awful in every one like The Room, where you can at least enjoy it later. It's so cringeworthy and offensive to sit through. It's a full-on hellish punishment to sit through this film. And that's why I would say The Hottie and the Naughty is the absolute worst romantic comedy of all time.
Thank you, Trisha. Janet.
Okay, closing thoughts. First of all, though, here's the problem, Hector. You've done such an amazing job about arguing the significance of 16 Candles that we can't just toss it to the side. This is whether or not it's a successful and remains a successful romantic comedy is absolutely at question. But it's a conversation. It's a conversation starter. It's the opportunity for parents to talk to their kids. It's an opportunity. I would take a class that you taught about John Hughes films and what's wrong with them, and it would give me an understanding of what was going on in a totally different era. I sign up for that. I don't want that to disappear. I feel that there actually is a reason that that film should be around. I can't say the same thing about yours, but at least there is still this sort of, you guys both leaned into the kind of like, this is why this is offensive, and I think it's important for us to talk about those things, and if we push them to the side and have them never exist, we're never going to change and we're never going to understand what's wrong. From Justin and Kelly, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that. So this is, what this movie is just the very worst at an attempt at just like a sad, like, meh attempt at like, oh, this is what romantic comedies are, and it just fails on every level. I don't think that it is enjoyable just because it's a fun, bad thing to watch. I find it totally unwatchable. And I can't give you the absolute worst film for The Hottie and Naughty because it still feels like Paris Hilton is winning something. If you say her movie is the very worst, that means she's number one at anything, and I cannot give that to her. I cannot give her that award, that prize. She does not deserve anything, even if it's the best of the worst.
Time. All right. Wow. Well played all. Dan, where are we in the fact zone?
Just a couple things.
Yeah.
Connie Ogle of the Miami Herald was the critic that had provided the scathing review of The Hottie and the Naughty that was used in the argument. From Justin and Kelly was released in 2003. The Hottie and the Naughty was released in 2008. But you kind of get into a time warp with movies that bad. And if you are lucky enough to be an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can watch The Hottie and the Naughty right now.
Thanks, Dan. Everybody is clicking away to go on.
We've lost everyone.
All right, so this was a really eye-opening argument, and I knew some of what you were saying, Hector, regarding 16 Candles, but like it really resonated. But coming down to the spirit of the question and thinking about what is problematic versus what is just the overall worst movie, it was there are a lot of factors at play. Janet, but that was a great closing.
I had to pull it together at the end.
Yeah, you did pull it together. I mean, who needs pages of notes? You're off the cuff.
From the heart.
I really do not, in retrospect, just hate that movie more now. And Trisha, I thought you had a great comprehensive breakdown on why Hottie and Naughty was problematic and just a poorly done, poorly executed film. And at the end of the day, Trisha's argument kind of rose above for me, just as far as in so many aspects, because they dinged you a little bit. Molly Ringwald's performance is triumphant. I thought you had some great points, Janet, but Trisha, had the most going for as far as just it being a bad film in every category. Tough choice, but Trisha gets it from me.
I can't disagree. I
can't believe I won something with the Hottie and the Naughty.
Not yet.
I won from Hal. Sorry.
Yes.
I agree. Very difficult choice. And I stuck a couple pieces at the chat. And some people were comparing this round to a round that I fought at Comic-Con against Kevin Smith about a movie that should be erased forever. And I picked Jaws 2, and he picked Triumph of the Will. And that's hard to fight against because obviously, yes. But Janet actually, particularly in the closing there, said the exact argument that I thought of in the shower 2 weeks later and smacked my head, which was, and I thought it was really compelling, not just because I wish that I'd made it, but the idea of, yes, you can acknowledge that something is horrible, but in another way, it can serve a function as a conversation starter, as a spotlight, as something that can bring more awareness to how things have changed. And I think that undermined a lot of Hector's fundamental arguments. By the way, I watched 16 Candles and Pretty in Pink recently for the first time, and I agree 100%. Those movies
sure.
They have some very things that do not hold up, and it really shouldn't in any society, but particularly in light of today. However, I thought Janet really artfully sort of made a distinction there. And so, in deciding which one I was going to vote for, I actually, I thought it was pretty close for me between Trisha and Janet, and I actually kind of like the creativity of the argument of, like, even though it's the worst, why give Paris Hilton the win? I thought that was a really kind of fun argument and a creative argument. So, in an argument that close, I'm actually going to go with Janet.
All right, so one for Janet, one for Trisha. Danielle, what does the internet poll have to say?
All right, as of right now, this second, we have, with 45% of the vote, the Hottie and the Naughty. Ooh. We have 16 Candles at 29%, and from Justin to Kelly to 24%. That last-minute rally argument and that counter really won over the chat from what I was seeing. Wow. So some of the other ones that people had mentioned, Biodome, Grease 2, How Dare You, Cool Rider for Life, Geely, What Women Want, Valentine's Day, all really good. And this one in particular, so Pookness Monster said, let's be clear, Valentine's Day is the worst romantic comedy of all time. It's a hodgepodge of famous people who were tricked into making something that resembles a movie.
Never saw it.
Well played. All right, so going into round number 2, it's one for Trisha, Janet, and Hector looking to get on the board.
Gotta get on the board.
All right.
Ooh,
well done.
That was tough.
Here we go. It doesn't get any easier.
It's also going to be tough.
No,
Okay,
this is
so-
impossible.
We're taking a slight detour here in round 2. Since we have an animation star at the table, we thought we'd do a TV question, animation, TV-centric. So, with that being said, let's ask a big one. What's the best animated series of all time?
What?
Yeah.
How can we possibly?
We're going to decide that here
How
today.
is that?
We will finally, once and for all, decide that. And we're going to start question number 2, player number 2. Trisha, what do you got?
I feel like the only possible answer to this question is
Yes.
Batman the Animated Series. I mean, it even has the animated series in the name for anyone who's questioning. But seriously,
Yes, it is animated.
Yeah, Batman the Animated Series. This series is so beautifully done in just about every single possible way. The writing by Paul Dini, the beautiful Gothic architecture that composes the city of Gotham, which feels like a character in and of itself. The dual tonality where we get so much nuance in our villains, our Joker. We get to meet other Batman characters like Two-Face, and we get introduced to Harley Quinn for the very first time. I mean, just everything about this series is so perfectly done and perfectly hits for both an adult audience as well as for kids. I mean, to make a Joker that's satisfying to the DC Comics audience, the adult audience, and still light enough for children to watch without getting horrific nightmares is a piece of art in and of itself. This series did it beautifully, and it set up DC for what we know of Batman today. This did it. This gave us Mark Hamill's Joker. This gave us, like I said, Harley Quinn. And it gave us, when people think Batman now and the Batman universe, a lot of what they draw from is this series. So Batman, the animated series.
All right. Trisha, coming strong with Batman. Janet.
Well, first of all, I love Batman. I have no problem. It is a great series. It's a character that has been very explored. I'm not saying that they're not doing it the better or the best, with this series. You got a lot of choices when you're looking for Batman. I'm not sure that really is, I don't know that. Here's what. When you said the only possible answer for this question is Batman the Animated Series, I was like, goodbye. Because that's just not true. I understand that we're doing a debate, but that offends me as a person who had the absolute privilege and joy and life-changing experience of voicing a female hero on a show that is going to be, and I truly am saying this as a fan. I'm not saying this as a person who got to work on it. Also, there are a lot of shows that people get to work on that are not fun experiences or that they don't believe in after the fact. This is something that I am so honored to have been a part of. Even if I weren't, I would still say that this is the best series. I think it pulls from so many different philosophies, and it has, the martial arts element, and it has it has so much humor, so much graceful, exciting action. It has a hero who, like your friend, is very complicated, is not perfect, is struggling through something, has lessons to learn, has to pick herself up, has to learn how to ask for help from others, has to face villains who, again, like you said, are very nuanced. I mean, these guys are brand new, never before seen, totally created, very recently by Mike and Brian, amazing creators. But they are villains that they make sense, and that's what makes the storytelling so compelling. I understand that you're going to be going back to series 1, and I totally appreciate that, and I don't disagree. I just think that for me and my experience and my age and my gender and all that kind of stuff, that again, from the heart, this one was more meaningful for me personally. From the PTS that Korra experiences, I don't like adding the D because I don't think it's a disorder. I think it's an experience. And the way that she gets through that, to the relationship that ends the series with Asami, where I still have people coming up to me in tears saying, this is how I came out to my parents. I will never be able to say that there is any series better than The Legend of Korra. There may be one as good, Hector, but there is nothing better.
All right, Janet with a stirring opening argument for Legend of Korra. Hector.
I can't believe I did this to myself. I have to say, Janet, you're wrong. And also, Trisha, great pick.
If I couldn't have picked Korra, I would have picked yours.
Absolutely. My pick is Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I'm going to, you know what? I have notes, some great notes. I'm going to try to do this from the heart. Okay. Because that's how much this show means to me as well.
Respect.
There was nothing on the air like Avatar before Avatar. And I think that so many shows, not just The Legend of Korra, which was a beautiful follow-up, and the job that Legend of Korra had, which was such an impossible task, which was to exceed what Avatar did, and in many ways it did. And personally speaking, I prefer Korra. But I have to say that Avatar: The Last Airbender is overall a better, more impactful show in the history that it made in animation. And it's not just Korra that it was obviously influenced by and kind of followed it up, but animation after this was allowed to be more serialized. Even going back to Batman the Animated Series, fantastic show, but that first Batman run was very episodic, and it wasn't until later shows, Avatar and Korra have the advantage that Batman did not, which is, 10, 20, 15 years later, we're able to delve into this beautifully moving stories. Avatar: The Last Airbender was able to tell kids about things like genocide and all of these horrific concepts and explain to them in a way that they could understand. And it was still this immensely moving and gorgeously detailed show. Nothing on the air was like it before Avatar: The Last Airbender. Korra was more inward and personal, and that's what I love about it. But for me, Avatar is more simple. It is more concise. It is more, this is impossible. Janet's looking at me. It's Korra, right? This is so hard. This is so hard. Why did I do this to myself? But Avatar is just something that to me is a little bit more, I don't want to say mainstream, but just accessible for many, many different ages. Whereas Korra, I think, hits at a specific age, and God, it hits so, so well. But without Avatar: The Last Airbender, we would not have the quality of shows across the board on every network that we have today. It was also this beautiful combination, the first combination really, of American storytelling with this gorgeous Asian overseas art that beautifully mixed that together. And Korra did not drop the ball by any means, but the ball was put in play by Avatar: The Last Airbender. So I have to give it to Avatar.
All right, let's open it. Let's open it up and fight it out, everybody.
How do you fight Korra against Korra?
I don't know.
What are we doing?
Well, they gave us the question. What was I going to pick? How could I pick anything else?
Oh, you're contractually obligated.
It's
I know.
I'll take the blame.
So let's all gang up on Batman. So here's the thing about Batman. Batman, the animated series. First of all, are we also counting the new Batman Adventures as part of it?
I'm going to say no.
You're going to say no? Okay, that helps my argument. So Batman, the animated series, if it was as good as it was, I don't think that the designs would have been as drastically changed when we went to the new Batman Adventures, Superman, the animated series, Justice League, Batman Beyond, and Beyond. And they did change with Superman, and they sort of stayed that way up until now. There's going to be a new direct-to-video movie coming out called Justice League versus the Fatal Five that is still using those designs versus the more clunky, bulky, big-suited, early 90s Batman, the animated series look. And some of the animation, if you go back and look at it, the writing is still top-notch, yes, but some of that animation is clunky. It's not as great. I'm going to refer to my notes. There was an animation historian, Charles Solomon, who said that he was commenting the dark Art Deco influenced backgrounds tended to eclipse the stiff animation and pedestrian storytelling, and he concluded that the series looked better in stills than it did on screen. And for some of those early episodes, I agree. Look, there was 85 episodes of that. There was a lot of filler. I have a whole list of random Batman episodes that I could list off right now. You're not going to know what they are, but every episode of Avatar and Korra were essential viewing. You couldn't skip any of those. So we just have the unfair advantage, Janet and I, of having a completely different animation landscape. They were working with different parameters then. Batman was great, and it broke a lot of ground, but it was always improved upon, even with the writing, even with superhero storytelling. A 22-minute episode of Young Justice is able to balance more characters, more character growth, which Batman really wasn't allowed to do at that point because it was still that episodic formula thing. In 22 minutes, and Batman used to do it in like 10 minutes, or in 10 episodes rather. So newer superhero stuff has gotten even tighter. And I'll also say this, like Janet said, Batman was looking at the comics for inspiration. The comics, whereas our shows were completely from the ground up animated shows at their core. And so that's why.
Well, yes, these shows.
Yes, just gang up on Batman.
While these shows are not dealing with having to harness a massive amount of lore, I would say that's an argument for Batman the Animated Series, that it had so much source material it had to be truthful to and depict within an episodic series, as you said, and having the challenge within an episodic series to give a character as nuanced and detailed as Harley Quinn. That is still to this day the best portrayal we've seen of Harley and everything she's dealing with. You guys are talking about dealing with huge issues, and I agree. Mm-hmm. You guys are bringing audiences a new way to talk about a lot of this stuff that's going to be very difficult for them. Batman the Animated Series let people deal with mental illness. It let people figure out how they can take their pain and either let it turn them into a Joker or a Two-Face, or let it turn them into a Batman. Let them use it to become a hero. Batman the Animated Series dealt with very, very heavy stuff for kids as well. So I think it's unfair to write that off as just some comic book kids show. Batman the Animated Series did that earlier, and I would argue that made it even harder. Based on the landscape that Batman the Animated Series was in to break that kind of ground and pave that way for future animated series, this is it. This is the one that did it. Well, I also want to add in here, I didn't mention before, Danny Elfman's incredible score for the theme. Absolutely fantastic. I already mentioned the voice acting. Top notch. The writing, absolutely brilliant. And again, I know you guys are kind of using it as against Batman the Animated Series, that it had so much comic source material to draw from, but it had die-hard fans that needed that source material to be respected, and marketing people that needed it to be marketed to children, to sell action figures, and it expertly did both of those at the exact same time. Now, I have notes here to argue against your two series, but I feel really awkward doing it today. I know, right? How am I able to say that? Both series are absolutely fantastic. Let me say that. I will say, with The Legend of Korra, I wish that there was more dealt with the non-benders versus benders and kind of the realistic real-world conflict that could make, kind of similar to like an X-Men thing. I feel like in the early episodes, we start seeing some real arguments made for the other side. And then it kind of goes off into like, now I'm a crazy cult leader, and I don't know
disagree.
that
I think it was great. I thought it was great. Jen, I completely
I
disagree.
hate you, Hector! Don't do that to me! Come on! And I would also say there were some moments when I thought the comedy and the drama aspects maybe didn't meld as well. Like, we're dealing with serious teen issues, and then we're fart bending. Like back to back. So, but
Hi, that's called teenagerhood.
Right. I'm being super nitpicky here because this is a very good series and I'm having a hard time. So those are the things I have to say. If I have to make a knock against Legend of Korra, that's absolutely what I would say.
Let me stop right there before you get to Avatar.
go.
Batman also was able to ride the coattails of success of Elfman's Batman. No, sorry, not Elfman. Tim Burton's Batman. 1989 and 1992's Batman Returns. That already proved that you could do Batman in a more dark, gothic way. That helped that show sort of get greenlit. But again, going back to Avatar, Korra was a done deal. Nickelodeon was like, please give us more. Brandon, like, please, please, please. But Avatar was like this, what's your pitch? And it was a completely new world.
Jen, I would love to hear a little bit more from you.
World building from the ground up, yes.
Yeah, sure. I think that you guys have made my job very simple, and I think it's probably because you are trying to take it easy on me. But the good news is you're right to do so, because I just happened to have had the privilege, again, and the honor of having been on the Best Animated Series. Hector, you said it yourself. You said it for me. You said, sure, the Avatar broke ground, and then they exceeded. You used those words. You said, then Mike and Brian exceeded.
In some ways. In some places.
Exceeded
In some places.
what they had taken and brought to the table with Avatar. I don't think that it was for a specific age. I think that's talking down to the people who love the show who aren't necessarily the age that might have been the target audience.
Sure.
For me, again, the personal experience, the one-on-one of families who are watching it with their children, people who, again, I just think that while I absolutely love the first series, love it so much, I agree with you. Wouldn't be possible for Korra to exist without it. But just because something came before something doesn't make it better.
I agree.
It can't. And so that's, and I think culturally for us and for what's going on right now, Korra is the one that really pushed through and broke that glass ceiling. And to me, that's very, very important right now.
This has been an emotional journey. Let's move to final thoughts, starting with player number 2, Trisha Hershberger.
I'm giving it to Batman the Animated Series because it did have so many episodes. It ran for so long, and it did it beautifully all the time. From Danny Elfman's orchestra score to Paul Dini's brilliant, nuanced writing and character creation to the heart in every episode, between feeling the pain and understanding the pain of these villains and how it mirrors beautifully the pain of our hero. I mean, you feel it every time Bruce Wayne has to say goodbye to a lover and what really could be his happily ever after, because his real calling is the pain within him to help everyone else, and his real calling is for justice. It inspires us all to find our hero within and to use maybe any trauma, anything that we've had happen to us in the past that was hard to get through, rise above it and become a hero. Again, it's Paul Dini's writing, it's Danny Elfman's score, it's the beautiful animation, that dark gothic style, and what it did for the world. And I will also say, as far as it won primetime Emmys, it won daytime Emmys, this show has moved so many people and made so much ground for animated series to come after it.
Thanks, Trisha. Janet.
I think everything you said was wonderful. Everything you said checked off all the boxes for me with Legend of Korra, but then there are just a few more boxes that show doesn't check off for me. So for me, that again, you take something that's groundbreaking and absolutely wonderful in its own right, and then you raise it up a couple more notches in terms of, for me, again, personally, emotional quality, same kind of situation where you're shown that you can be an imperfect hero in your own life. You can overcome tremendous obstacles. You can process post-traumatic stress, and it's not just some throwaway thing. I disagree with you. I don't think that those concepts were sort of explored and then thrown away for something fluffier. I don't feel that that's true of Korra at all. I feel that all of those conflicts were very, very well explored, and there's just no fat on the bone in terms of those Korra episodes. They're tight. You, again, as Hector pointed out, you can't miss a single one because there's something meaningful and wonderful and emotionally important in each episode. And then again, it ends with something that was, for me personally, a career-changing moment, a personal. I'm getting so choked up because every time I think of the interactions that I have with fans and the Korrasami stuff, it's just a beautiful experience. And I just have not seen that anywhere else to the same depth and breadth that Mike and Brian brought to Legend of Korra.
Thank you, Janet. Back around the bend, Hector.
I hate myself. Janet, it was honestly, it's an honor to hear you talk about the show because I agree with Korra on so many facets. I just keep going back to that sort of all-time, the greatest animated series of all time, and I think about Legend of Korra and I think I wouldn't start a newer fan to that world. With Korra, I feel like you get more out of it if you've gone through the 3 epic seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the finale of which, by the way, had the highest ratings of the entire series. It was something that just built on top of itself so beautifully. And Batman the Animated Series is great, but it has these great handfuls of episodes. I think we should discount it for its consistency. Again, a different animation, landscape, and they were doing things differently, but not every episode was Heart of Ice. There was a lot of filler, and that consistency kind of didn't come through until shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where the creators, Brian and Mike, were able to say, we want to do 3 seasons and we're done, and finish our story, and it was gorgeous. And I'll finish with saying that as much as I love The Legend of Korra, there were aspects of the additions to the world the 70 years later that a lot of people preferred that they stuck with in Avatar. For example, the cool new sort of technology that was happening in the world, to some took away from the martial arts aspects of some of the combat, even though there was a bunch of great combat in Korra. Again, I really love Korra, but for me, Avatar: The Last Airbender is essential viewing, and nothing and any animated show ever in my life has topped the moment in the episode Tales of Ba Sing Se, where Mako sings Leaves from the Vine, Little Soldier Boy Comes Marching Home. That wrecks me, and things in Korra broke me, but this thing wrecks me. So I have to give it to Avatar, and I hate myself, and I'm sorry, everyone.
Don't hate yourself.
Time. All right. You know what? Hey, I hate myself sometimes too. Let's go to Dan in the fact zone. Oh, you know what? That's
Great job.
That's really
Great
nice.
job.
It's lovely.
Great job.
No, I know.
Come on, it's movie fights, not movie hugs, you guys. All right, that's nice.
It's Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it is. No, that was nice.
I think we should have a rule moving forward in movie fights that you can't argue your own project. Because how do you argue Korra with
It was the
Korra?
question I was presented, but then I
Hey,
was like, oh, wow.
you know what?
When Janet
It's
says
not
it-
against the rules.
When Janet says that she would have argued it even if she wasn't on the show, I believe her.
I do
believe
too.
her.
That is
Like,
absolutely
But who knows it better than her?
Well,
Brian.
Yeah.
you know what?
Possibly Hector?
Trisha, next time, be Batman. All right, let's go to Dan in the fact zone.
I mean, so much of it was, opinion based. There was one thing that I did want to point out regarding Batman the Animated Series, which was while Danny Elfman's theme was used for the series, Shirley Walker largely composed and supervised composition of the original music for the show itself. So it was Danny Elfman theme and then a largely original score supervised by Shirley Walker.
Thank you for that clarification. Dan, please go ahead and weigh in on this argument.
Great! I get to go first.
Yeah.
I mean, if it comes down to passion, I can't. Everybody had passion behind their choices, and it was very obvious. So it becomes very hard to differentiate because then it's just differentiating between opinion at that point. I feel like with Korra and Avatar both being on the board, a lot of the discussion became about Korra versus Avatar and Avatar versus Korra. And in a weird, sneaky way, because so much of the fight for me was directed at those two against each other, I felt like Trisha's argument kind of had a broader scope from not just the tone of the show, but the prestige of it, its legacy, and then I felt like people lobbed a lot of things at Trisha, and she still kind of fought back with Batman, and so I feel like there were so many personal feelings tied in with Korra and tied in with Avatar, and because they're related to each other, and because so much of it was Hector worrying about stepping on Korra, Batman was the one that ended up standing out for me, strangely. So my vote would go to Trisha.
All right, left the door ajar and Trisha snuck through with Batman. I saw it a little bit differently. I thought, all the arguments. And Janet, just hearing you talk about your character, your show, and the connection and the impact with fans, our little dog and pony show here aside, that was lovely.
Yeah.
And
that was a beautiful treat that I would have bought to the front row, and I was sitting right here.
Yeah. that was really thoughtful, and thank you for imparting that to us.
pleasure.
Overall, though, there was great arguments. Trisha, I thought you laid out just a wonderful breakdown of why, on many fronts, Batman is a great series. But I felt like we got some dings in as far as having just like a treasure trove of source material and ambiance to draw from to create that world, riding the Tim Burton wave and everything. And hearing Janet and Hector go back and forth, at the end of the day, I felt Hector laid the compelling argument as to why Avatar: The Last Airbender was, as he said, essential, a game changer, so impactful, and combined the art and the storytelling in this unique way. So just by a hair, I'm going Hector. So we're tied up. One for Trisha, one for Hector. We're going to Danielle to give us the internet poll.
All right, refreshing right now so you get your hot and fresh results. And we have, with 42% of the audience vote, Batman the Animated Series, 36% for Avatar: The Last Airbender, 21% for The Legend of Korra. We also had, they were very passionate about everything that should have been included in this.
Yes.
King of the Hill, X-Men, Steven Universe, one of my favorites, Rick and Morty, The Simpsons, South Park, Impossible, Gargoyles, Animaniacs, Full Metal Alchemist, BoJack Horseman, Clone Wars, and someone who just kept saying DuckTales.
I love those DuckTales.
That's not a bad. That's not a bad pick.
It's not a bad poll.
Yeah.
That's not a bad pick at all.
And seasons 1 through 8 of The Simpsons. Okay, so
I put 9 in there, half a 10.
right on.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that.
A lot of The Simpsons.
Yes. Okay, so Trisha takes a commanding 2-0 lead. Hector and Janet still looking to get on the board. And here's question number 3. A new Waterworld Blu-ray will restore nearly 40 minutes of deleted scenes to the film. Ooh, I hope there's some good Dennis Hopper in there. What famous flop should get the deluxe special edition treatment next? What famous flop should get the deluxe special edition treatment next? And we're going to start with player number 3, Janet.
Least prepared for this. Also reeling from being dead last in the show that means everything to me. So thanks, Internet.
Tied.
Glad to be here. I said the Adventures of Baron Munchausen. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. There's a lot of really crazy fun stuff in there. It's one of those, I love adventures. In a weird way, it kind of reminds me of Goblet of Fire, which is this sort of quest idea and stopping off and having all of these different adventures in these different worlds. It's wonderfully magical. There are some wonderful performances by actors that we continue to know and love through time, and that is something where, because there's so much packed into the movie as it is, and I know that Terry Gilliam shoots way more than ever makes it into a movie, I would love to see all of the pieces that we're missing. So I believe that there is easily 40 minutes. That would be wonderful and worth watching. I don't know that that's going to be true of most quote-unquote flops. Like, I don't want to see 40 more minutes of something that I also don't think is a great movie. And usually flops, commonly are. So that's mine.
Thank you, Janet. Around the horn to Hector.
I brought a little show and tell for my thing. I want them to come out with 40 extra minutes of MacGruber. I love this movie, and in a lot of comedy circles, it is a cult classic. It's a movie that is super funny. It's funnier and a better movie than it deserves to be, because it was based off of a ridiculous, super short skit on SNL. And the good news is that MacGruber, for years, the folks behind it were trying to get a part 2 made, and they were going to crowdfund it. They're going to do whatever they could to do it. But now there's going to be a TV show that has been sort of shopped around by Jorma Taccone from The Lonely Island, who directed it, and Will Forte, who stars as MacGruber. So with the incoming new show, which is sort of MacGruber 2 sequel, where it picks up after this one left off, I say let's put out another Blu-ray. Let's put 40 extra minutes on it, because I'm about to read the lackluster bonus features in this. Here we go. Bonus features. Deleted scene. Singular. So deleted scene, just the one scene. It's got a gag reel, sure, and it's got feature commentary with cast and crew. And I do believe that this movie, for fans of the film, would love an extra 40 minutes of adding to the bits, adding to the scenes, adding to the jokes, doing alternate jokes, doing jokes that they were afraid they were going to get an NC-17 because of some of the ridiculous. They were writing this at the same time as doing SNL, and they had no sleep, and it's so off the wall. It has such an unpredictable script. So my pick would be MacGruber, new show coming out, put out a complete set. Also give me the sketches from SNL.
All right, thank you, Hector. Round to Trisha.
Okay, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised and may not know that this was a Hollywood flop, but I'm going with 1999's Fight Club, David Fincher's Fight Club. So this was a huge flop at the box office. It was based on a big hit novel, given the major studio treatment, had all these A-list actors in their prime. They spent around $63 million to make this film, and it only made $37 million. So it definitely did not do what they were expecting it to do. And David Fincher is so smart. When it comes to things like the copyright claim in the beginning, a lot of people don't know there's like a split-second warning right after that. That's an entirely separate copyright claim. The film itself, the storytelling is so original. The acting and the performances are just spectacular. And I think that if someone were to find 40 minutes of deleted scenes that were not included and that no one had ever seen when it comes to Fight Club, I think that's the deluxe special edition that the world needs.
Fight it out, y'all.
My movie's an hour and 39 minutes. Hour 39 minutes. The Adventures of Baron Munchausen running time is 126 minutes. That's 2 hours and 6 minutes. And Fight Club is a whopping 2 hours and 31 minutes. And if we added an extra 40 minutes onto that, that would take a real long time. And Fight Club, you were mentioning making $63 million domestically, made $100 million worldwide on that budget of about $63 million. No, you said it made 30-something domestically. It made $100 million worldwide, and even though it didn't make money yet, the DVD, the Blu-ray, is so good and so beloved. They put out a two-disc edition DVD in 2001. It was ranked as some of the best special features, best DVD. When they put out the Blu-ray and it went out of print, the fans demanded it that they re-release it, and then they did. The Blu-ray edition opens with a menu screen for the romantic comedy Never Been Kissed, starring Drew Barrymore, and David Fincher got Drew Barrymore's permission to do that. So it just has this awesome Blu-ray and DVD that eventually made them $55 million in video and DVD rentals. So taking all that into account, the movie ended up actually making the studio $10 million profit because it did so well, and it's such a jam-packed, robust, home release. The Adventures of Baron Munchausen also came out with a Blu-ray in 2008 that had like storyboard sequences, deleted scenes, plural, a 3-part documentary making of the movie. And I'm sure that an extra 40 minutes would be fantastic, but you all have already got this is nothing. This is bare bones. So I say put
so
more on that.
You said this was an hour and a half long?
Yeah, an hour and 39 minutes.
It's an hour and 39 minute long SNL sketch.
Oh, somebody
Hector.
hasn't seen MacGruber yet, because it's not just that, it also riffs 80s and 90s action movies.
The MacGruber SNL sketches originally were 30 seconds to a minute and a half long.
Super
and
short.
I agree with you, super funny. And while there are very funny moments in MacGruber, overall, I don't know that anyone needs more scenes in that movie. I think that movie would benefit from being more in an SNL sketch form. Correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to jump
No, I
in
agree.
anytime.
I agree.
I feel like it's a bit uninspired action. Some of the comedy is awkwardly offensive, and I don't think I'm allowed to laugh at that kind of way. I'm not sure if and so in those moments, some audience members, and I would venture to say, especially with our political climate right now, probably about half of our nation would not feel comfortable laughing at moments in that movie. So I think that there's a lot of things in that I don't know that that's the extra 40 minutes of scene that the world needs right now. And you talked about how Fight Club developed this cult following after the fact. I think you can say the same for a lot of the films that we're discussing here, but at the theaters itself, it was bested by such hits as Anna and the King, Message in a Bottle, Bicentennial Man, The Bone Collector, Blue Streak, Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo,
That's a good one.
The Haunting, The General's Daughter. All of these movies beat it at the box office. So definitely still in financial flop territory there, even though
Janet, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you'd like to see from a Baron von Munchausen
I'd
deluxe.
like to see 40 minutes of Fight Club as the extra Baron Munchausen footage. I just didn't think of Fight Club as a flop, but I've been completely won over and convinced. I do want to see those extra 40 minutes. I know it's a very long movie, but I do think that David Fincher is doing really interesting work. He continues to do interesting work, and I think there probably are some really interesting unshot scenes.
So are you abandoning the Baron von Munchausen ship?
I've already lost, and I am going to get to sit down and relax while you guys do the speed round anyway.
I feel like we should pick up the Munchausen
why
flag
wouldn't
now.
I just throw? Yeah, why wouldn't I just throw it away?
He's a visual genius.
Visually stunning.
Yeah, no, but anyway, back to Fight Club. That's a great choice. That's what everyone should choose. Hal, that's what you should choose. Dan, that's what
you know what? I'm going to call it their time, okay? I feel like we've heard enough. We don't need to go around and get the final thoughts here. Dan, let's go to the fact zone.
Yeah. It's weird because this came up in it's sort of new information, but it also came up in the context of what was being brought up for the rest of the fight.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to have to be like a hybrid of informational for like information and kind of how because I got to be honest, I did not expect a resignation. So I threw my whole thinking into askew.
Yeah.
But that unrated Blu-ray that Hector has is 5 minutes longer and already has 5 minutes of extra material and added scenes, the unrated version. So
I got 4 minutes here. The rated version is 1 hour 31 minutes. According to this, it's not even 1 hour 39. The unrated is 1 hour 35, according to the back of this Universal Blu-ray. That's 4 minutes.
So they realized they like their own version less.
Scene on that.
They actually realized they needed to cut it.
Yeah.
Quality.
Oh no.
But at the same time, Fight Club has been released several other times, but I don't know. I'm really in a quandary.
Yeah.
Between the two, I guess the more interesting material for me, I think Trisha brought up a good point of and I like MacGruber, but I have to take my personal likes out of it. And just the idea that it was already a sketch that was extended from 30 seconds to 1 hour and a half, and do you want to see 40 more minutes of that? Whereas David Fincher and Fight Club is a really interesting movie. It was made, it made $100 million worldwide, but it made $37 million, and it did have a budget of over $60 million. So financially, at least on its release, which generally we define flop as a movie that was not financially successful in theaters, it was not a success. I'd have to go with Trisha, but this is a very weird round for me to judge how. It's very difficult
for sure. I hear you. This was a weird one. I felt Hector had landed some pretty devastating blows when he talked about the special editions of Fight Club and Baron von Munchausen.
I don't think there's a Von in there. Is there a Von in there?
Baron Munchausen. I just like to throw Von in every name. Hector von Navarro.
Fight Club.
Yes.
Fight Von Club.
But at the end of the day, I felt as a fan of this film, Hector being a fan of this film, it had the least additional aspects to it, and it was definitely a flop. So I thought the combination of those things, you swayed me on that. So it's 1 for Trisha, 1 for Hector. Danielle, where are we at?
Alrighty, going back, doing another refresh, get the polls nice and fresh and hot. So we have, with 45% of the audience vote, Fight Club, 28% for Adventures of Baron Munchausen, and 25% for MacGruber.
All right.
I mean, there were a lot of other ones that were mentioned. I don't feel, you all know it was mostly the Snyder Cut. Everyone said Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut. We all knew that was going to happen. Y'all know what you want the thing that you want, and I hope that you get it. There was one comment that I really liked. I know a lot of you guys will pull out The Room to be funny, but It's Paul Little on Twitter said, The Room, with director's commentary by Tommy Wiseau and the deleted Chris R. subplot, that sounds delightful. I want that as well.
Yeah.
I would watch that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds awkwardly delightful.
I'm roomed out. Couldn't do it. After the Disaster Artist, I was like, I'm good.
Okay, so we are. It's crazy times here at Movie Fights because Trisha clean sweep 3-0 in the first 3 rounds. That means we have
a first for me for sure.
Well played,
That's crazy.
But now we must determine who will move on to the speed round to face Trisha. So Janet, Hector, It's
No.
time. Yes.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Yes.
I didn't get myself out of
No.
this?
No, you
How
did
did
not.
that happen? I
Because you
resigned
had
my own
heart,
point.
kid. You had heart.
You stopped trying, didn't get a point. Hector tried really hard and didn't get a point. So, but
I'm in good company, my
no,
friend.
you both
guys are amazing.
You both argued wonderfully, and it's these have been tough fights to call. But now it comes down to a tiebreak to see who will face Trisha in the speed round. Here we go. So how this works? I'm going to ask a question. Shout out your answer. The first person to answer first will have 20 seconds to elaborate and tell us why they had the better answer. Then the other player will get 20 seconds, and then back around, 10-second rebuttal, 10-second rebuttal.
These are all just going to be movie options, right?
I'm
I would
gonna
yell
ask
The Legend of Korra for every one if I could.
Okay, probably not applicable.
Okay.
You will paint yourself
Damn
into
it.
a corner that way. All right.
All right. Gotta make it up to Janet.
Makes
and
sense?
Everybody.
I think
So shout out your
find
answer.
out.
Shout out your answer. Okay, and then you'll get the first person to answer will get 20 seconds, then 20 seconds, and then 10-second rebuttals. Okay. Here's the question. Rebel Wilson is getting rave reviews for a performance in Isn't It Romantic? What actor who has never done one should star in a romantic comedy?
Jackie Chan.
Has he never done one?
Okay, we have Jackie Chan. Janet.
Well, oh, I'm still supposed to shout. I thought. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Actor
Actor who has never done a romantic comedy who should do one?
Oh gosh. I don't know. This is also new to me. This entire process and
yeah.
shouting out. I'm racking my brain to think of somebody that I like that hasn't been in a romantic comedy. I can't guarantee that anybody I would say has not been in a romantic comedy.
Okay. Thank you for taking
You
us
know
into your
what?
thought process.
I love the show Counterpart, and I love what JK is doing with those two roles. I'm gonna go ahead and say J.K. Simmons, romantic comedy.
Okay.
That's a sneaky Legend of Korra answer.
But I
All
love
right.
Counterpart.
So we have Jackie Chan, we have J.K. Simmons. 20 seconds on the clock for Hector. 20 seconds begin as soon as you start talking.
My argument is Jackie Chan because I love him, everyone loves him, and Jackie Chan, I think on a recent appearance, like maybe a few years back on Conan, said he keeps getting cast in these action movies, and all he's ever wanted to do is be like in a romantic comedy, and nobody's ever let him do that, and that broke my heart when I heard that. And Conan was like, "Do you think you'd be good?" He's like, "Yes," and he was doing like little rom-com bits. Thank you.
All right. 20 seconds for Janet. It starts whenever you start speaking.
To be honest with you, I sort of feel like the Shanghai Nights, Shanghai Day, Shanghai Noon, and the
Rush
Hours are romantic comedies in their own special way. So I feel like we've seen the touching, sweet version of Jackie Chan. We get to see that every time he does an action film. JK keeps being lauded over and over for his snarky characters.
Time.
And you know the rest.
10-second rebuttals.
J.K. Simmons, I don't know, that's just not my tempo. That's all I got. That's all I got. Not my tempo. I don't know. No, I love him. He would be great. He would be great. Shit.
Janet. 10-second rebuttal.
Jackie Chan's great. I feel like I know what that movie looks like. I kind of feel like I've already seen it, even though it may not exist. He's adorable, but no.
Did we just help each other? What
know.
are we doing?
All right.
complimented each other. Dan, I'm sorry, Dan.
Yeah. Wow.
You broke Dan.
Yeah.
Congratulations, guys. You're broken.
Yeah. Hector, you sacrificed your
I don't
speed
know,
round for a
man.
whiplash joke.
Yep, I
Yeah.
Really landed.
yeah,
It really
because,
landed to total silence.
Yeah.
did. No, I got one laugh in the way back.
Okay.
Largely because of that, and because I thought she, you know what? I mean, those are technically buddy comedies, but I thought you made a good point that he did not rebut about seeing that speed from Jackie Chan. So, you get it from me, Janet. I go with Janet on this one. Danielle?
Anytime someone gives up, it's hard. I've got two quitters. So which quitter do I give it to? I have to go by this round, and by this round, the one that quit and gave up and did not stay and argue, their choice was Hector, so I've got to give it to Janet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Janet, you are
didn't
moving on to
quit
the
hard
speed
enough.
round. Hector.
Don't want to move on to the round. I am completely intimidated by both of you. I was so excited to walk away and just watch as a fan and be like, oh my gosh, they're both amazing. This is tough.
Sorry, you're going to keep fighting.
All right.
You know why?
All right.
Because you may not believe this, but you made me argue against someone else related to the Legend of Korra, and that was the
swear,
best
wasn't on
technique
purpose?
on purpose.
It was.
She knew that was my weakness.
Yeah.
I couldn't come in and be like, oh, the voice of Tenzin. I can't. He's
You
the
did
best.
a great job all day, except for that rebuttal.
I
Very
agree.
bad. Okay.
Oh, no.
No, but otherwise, he was awesome. Otherwise, he was
Yeah.
awesome.
I just want to
no,
be.
that was fun.
yeah.
Listen, I've sacrificed a lot of things in my life to make one joke.
For the bits.
Yes. Oh, I've sacrificed so much for the bits. Okay. So that did not count for a point. It is still 3-0, Trisha. So Janet, you need a clean sweep. It is game point all night long for Trisha. Okay. It is game
It's been
point.
a pleasure to lose to you, my friend.
Please don't be intimidated. The speed round is where I always
learning.
lose my gas.
I'm learning.
All right, here we
Grasshopper's
go.
learning.
And
That's all.
it works the exact same way as the tiebreaker did. I'll ask the question, call out your answer, and then 20 seconds, 10-second rebuttal, 10-second rebuttal. Let's jump into the fun. What location from any movie would be the best place to go on a romantic Valentine's date?
The Shire.
You heard the Shire, Trisha? Five.
Diagon Alley.
Diagon Alley? Okay.
Hector's
Diagon Alley and the Shire.
having
We heard the
audible
Shire from
thoughts.
Janet first. 20 seconds begin when you speak.
Well, first of all, it's a real place, so you can actually go there. No offense. I mean, Diagon Alley is, but it's not. There's a different level of tourist attraction that we're talking about here. I think if you go to the Diagon Alley, you kind of wish that you really were at the real Diagon Alley, and it's not close enough, all due respect to what Universal has done. But when you go to the Shire, you feel like you're in the Shire. You're surrounded by all the
Time.
hobbits. Oh,
Okay, Trisha.
Diagon Alley has amazing things you could do that are date things. You can go get a chocolate frog. You can go get a butterbeer. You can go window shopping through lots of magical, mystical things. If we're talking about the Shire, that means we're talking about Middle Earth, and Middle Earth is goddamn terrifying. Hobbiton, the set for the Shire, is a wonderful place that you can go visit, but the actual Shire itself...
Time. 10-second rebuttal, Janet.
Hobbiton and the Shire for me are one and the same. I did think about an actual real place that I'd been that was absolutely charming, magical, made me feel like I was transported into another place. If I had the opportunity to have that for reals.
The actual Shire, Nazgul come there. You are not safe in the actual Shire. And if you leave your house for a while, all your neighbors come and take your stuff. Look what happened to poor Bilbo. That is not a nice place to go on a...
Time. All right. Dan Merle.
Thank you. Longtime viewers of the show know that I would have said the Chocolate Factory from Willy Wonka and lost.
That would have been fun.
No,
That's
I
a
probably
fun
would
date,
have.
though.
I mean, listen, yeah.
I thought so too, but I was apparently wrong.
Except
This
you're
is a
ignoring
grudge
your
I have
date
from
to
years
pig
ago.
out. That's what I would be doing.
I feel like I had a better idea of what the date was going to be. Window shopping and chocolate frog eating from Diagon Alley. So that's where my vote would go.
All right, that's one for Trisha and Diagon Alley in the Potterverse. Danielle.
You know, I as much as I did appreciate Janet's argument about, you know, the Shire and how magical it is, I agree with Dan. I did feel like I had more of an idea about what this date would be. And then also, I forgot about them little stealing hobbits.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to go somewhere where I'm going to get mugged.
Fair.
I just go to
Fair.
Times Square for that. That's cool. So I'm also going to go with Trish.
Trisha Hershberger, you are today's Movie Fights winner.
Thank you. Can I just say, Janet, you've actually been to Hobbiton, yes?
Yes.
It is a beautiful, beautiful... I went there on my honeymoon, so
is
like
great.
the ultimate date. So I was like, how do I argue against
That
the
being said,
Oh, yeah, that was
I
like a-
probably would go to Diagon Alley.
Yeah, that was like a lovely New
Magic a lot.
Zealand tourism commercial.
yeah.
Trisha, you came in, you dropped
Dominated.
a clean sweep
Yeah.
on these folks.
Beautiful work.
Nicely done.
Thank you, and so unexpected because this was such a tough fight today. Oh my gosh, guys.
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. Please go ahead and tell us what you got coming up. Give us some shout outs, anything at all.
Sure. I currently host 2 tech shows, one for Kingston Technology that's kind of like a Tech Made Easy show, and one for Newegg that's a live show every Thursday. And then I host a video game show for Geek and Sundry, and you can often find me playing around over at Nerdist as well. So that's where you can find me online, plus at That Girl Trish with no I in the girl on all the social stuffs.
Super cool. Trisha, well fought today.
you.
Just devastating. Janet, you were like showing off, oh, I don't have any notes on this card, but then you just came in with gems and these thoughts that were like, that hit to the core.
It's all I had,
Janet.
guys, because I didn't have any. I didn't know I should.
You didn't
have,
come in with
like-
any box office numbers, but
Yeah.
you came in with just these emotional things that.
Do you know why I had this? Because you picked The Legend of Korra. Are you kidding me? I had to.
I still lost. I still lost. Third. I came in third.
Yeah, we
came
would.
in second.
Not on that one. Not
Overall.
on that round.
Well, you were awesome, and
Thanks.
it was just fun to hear you, and you had some wonderful points. Please tell us where we can find your show and plug anything you like.
Yeah, you can certainly get Voyage to the Stars. You should subscribe. It's available anywhere you get your podcasts. I have my own podcast on the Max Fun Network called the JV Club. I interview women, except for during the summer I interview dudes. I feel very sure, Trisha, that I will be having you on my show very soon. I would very much like to
I would
talk
be
about your
honored.
awkward teenage years with you, because that is the focal point of my podcast, the JV Club. That was very podcast heavy, but you can follow me at Janet Varney on Twitter, the JV Club on Instagram, and that's it.
Thank you so much. Awesome having you. Hector, you fought valiantly. We'll forget about that one rebuttal, but no, you were great. I loved listening to you. I love
happy
listening to you
with that.
talk about nerd stuff,
Thanks,
my friend.
man. I appreciate it. That
It's
was
so
my
thoughtful
that was
and heart and facts.
my
You bring it
least
all.
favorite thing I've ever done in my life was to have to argue Avatar against Korra herself. So
But-
you and me. I did it. I picked it. I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever.
man.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, please go ahead and shout out.
Go get the Legend of Korra on Blu-ray because it's such a good show. And then also get the Avatar: The Last Airbender, which also was recently put out on Blu-ray. But the Legend of Korra is so great. Go get the comic books; they're fantastic. There's going to be new ones coming out this year. They're finishing out one of their newer trilogies, which
Yeah.
is amazing. And you can follow me online at Hector is Funny and check out my movie podcast, which is called 500 Greatest Films Podcast. You can find it at 500GF Podcast, where me and my buddy are going to take 10 years to watch 500 movies. We watch one a week. And it's real great. It's real great. So
Amazing.
Thanks
What
for
a
having me,
journey.
guys. It's
What a
quite
journey.
a journey. We've seen some stinkers and some thinkers, and so real good. Danielle, your episode's coming out on Monday.
Oh, my episode's coming out on Monday.
Yeah, because
Ah.
we just watched Hairspray, the original Hairspray, OG Hairspray.
Yes.
The
John Waters version,
yes,
yeah,
the not
the original,
musical.
yeah.
And so that episode's dropping on Monday a.m. and Danielle is on it, and she's phenomenal. So check that out.
She's always phenomenal.
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome.
And let's go over to the Dan Cam. Dan Merle, thank you so much for holding down the fact zone. Any
pleasure.
thoughts you'd like to privy us with?
Happy February 14th to everyone.
Yes.
Out there. Hope you have.
Wait, that's not what the greeting card companies call it.
That's what I call it.
Yeah.
However you choose to celebrate it, there's no right way or wrong way. Don't let anyone guilt you into doing something you don't want to do.
Right on.
Have a good
Agreed.
time. Enjoy the day.
Nice.
You know? Yeah.
Dan, thank you for that because I've been a sad boy on Valentine's Day before, so sometimes you need to hear that.
Have
Thanks,
a good
brother.
time.
Hell yeah.
Eat
Thank
a
you,
pizza.
sir.
Get some self-care in.
Right?
Get some fast food. Go see a bad movie.
Yeah,
Do
go
whatever
see a
you
bad
wanna
movie. Danielle Radford, thank you so much for being our social chair and just a friend to the internets.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dan, for that encouraging statement. I'm going to be out with my boyfriend having a date. We're doing small stuff at home. We're watching bad movies on Saturday. We're not going out.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. I'd rather do that. Stay in. I know how to make meat. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Danielle Radford, on Instagram at Danielle_Radford. Again, I do have a Patreon where we do talk about things like bad movies and we hang out, and it would be really fun for you to join us there. I am also on a podcast on the Max Fun Network called Tights and Fights, where we talk about wrestling. We just uploaded one today. We do it every Thursday, and I will see you guys there. Okay, I love you.
Oh, and everyone loves you too, Danielle. Yeah, please follow me at Hal Rudnick on Twitter and Instagram. We'll talk about movies, and we'll talk about a lot of dumb shit. And Owl Nation, hoot hoot. And if you are in LA on Saturday night, the 16th of February, come to the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater on Franklin for the Tournament of Nerds. This Saturday, going to be super fun. And otherwise, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Billy Biz. I want to thank JTE. And I want to thank you again for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.